Hello and welcome everybody to another puzzle challenge video at chessuniversity.com, and also happy International Chess Day for all you out there for whom it's still Monday. I'd like to start this video, as always, with the solution to yesterday's puzzle, which is on your screen right now, or at least the starting position of yesterday's puzzle. It's white to play and find the best continuation. This is from a game I played last year in Canada in a FIDE-rated tournament. I did not find this line, and I went on to lose. But if you'd like to solve it, and you haven't already taken a look at it, haven't already tried to solve it, take a moment now to pause the video and take a deeper look, because I'm going to continue by analyzing the position and showing the best way forward for white. Okay, so I can tell you that in the game I simply moved my rook away. I played rook h5, and the rest of this was very aimless for me. After knight f5, my rook was essentially getting trapped, so I had to give up material. And I might have had some weird practical chances at some point, but effectively I was lost after here. So going back, after knight d6, the best move by far is to sacrifice on b6. It surprisingly ends up being quite decent for white. There's 2 points. First is you're counterattacking on d8, and the queen is also hanging, so the move is somewhat forced. For example, if they play knight takes b5, you just take on d8. And if they take back on d8, the knight is hanging, and you've won a pawn, if I'm counting correctly, and that's very good for white. And what else can they do? Well, they can also trade queens, which is the main line. So after takes, they can exchange on f3, king takes f3. And now still, if they take the rook on d8 is hanging. So this ends up still being an endgame with an extra pawn for white. So they can't do that. They really just have to accept the sacrifice and take on b6. And you're going to reach this endgame where, speaking just from a material point of view, black is having the extra piece, white only has 2 pawns. Or I'm sorry, yeah, it's only 2 pawns. It's only 2 pawns, but the thing is, all of the extra pawns that white has, they're all on one side, they're all connected, and they're pushing rather quickly. A5, a6, a7, rook b8 is actually not that hard of a plan to execute for white, and certainly compared to the game, just as a practical thing, and this is obviously better than what I ended up going for, and I should have at least considered it, but yeah, missed opportunity for white. This is by far what white should be doing, and in fact, actually, probably objectively, white is more than just okay here. Black doesn't have any easy counterplay, and it's not easy to attack these pawns because of the position of the rook shielding the b-file. So if you saw that idea, very nice. This is in fact the best line for white. So with that one covered, we can now move on to the new stuff, which you can see is going to appear in just a moment here after black plays the move king to h8. This is played in an online tournament between a 17 and a 1300 in a 10+5 game. And here it's white to play and find the best move. So we're back to our easier puzzles of the week since it's the beginning of a new week. And I will review how this position developed up to this point. So let us rewind. This one started as e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. So an Italian game with knight c3, which is unfortunately a little bit on the dry side, as these positions tend to get quite symmetrical and stay that way without a lot of pawn breaks to spice them up. If you're trying to find a way to play the Italian that at least has some dynamism, some imbalance in the play, I'd recommend either castling here or playing c3 or d3, keeping the c and the d pawns flexible so that you can later play for d4. Or you can play the old school way and play c3 followed by d4, which, although technically totally fine for black and in some cases better for black, does spice up the play somewhat. So if you're looking for something more exciting, that's what I'd recommend. But if you're fine with solid, dry, symmetrical stuff, I mean, this is totally okay. It's just that white doesn't get any real advantage. Bishop b3, castles, and here, bishop b3 was a clever previous move in some sense, although the downside is that at some moment, if black defends this pawn, say with d6, like right now, and then white castles, the fact that the bishop's been moved to b3 means that it's potentially going to be vulnerable to some knight a5 business in the near future. So let's say here, and then knight a5, trying to go after this bishop. And in a lot of cases, if the bishop was on c4, it could go to he'd go to b5, and then after c6 or a6, it goes back to a4, and black would have to at least loosen themselves up in order to chase down the bishop, whereas here it's already sort of surrounded. Anyway, castles, knight takes e5, which was, I think, the idea behind white's bishop b3. They want to go and give this fork But notice that if the bishop was still on c4, black could respond to this by capturing the bishop, which is that's a benefit of having the bishop out of the way. So after knight takes e5, the best move is, of course, for black to take. A lot of, especially kids and newer players, when their opponent sacrifices a piece, they don't even take it, and that's usually a mistake. Like, unless you can see a reason why taking the piece leads you to lose something, like objectively be behind in some immediate sense that you can see, you should be getting into the habit of taking material that's offered, because a lot of times it'll be free material, and you won't be able to like figure out why it's not free if you don't investigate, if you don't try it out. So you should get in the habit of taking free things and then asking questions. So yeah, after takes, the intention was probably to play d4. This is the old center fork trick. Then black would move the bishop out of danger, because bishops are generally better than knights, especially in this position. And then after takes and takes, black's in no way worse here. White does have a pawn in the center and black does not, but black's development's, black's already castled, white's not, because white spent this extra move moving a piece. So black's development's okay. They're going to be able to go c6, d5, or maybe just d6 and develop the light square bishop. I don't think black really has anything to worry about in this position. So, but for some reason they panicked. They didn't take the material. They didn't take the immediate piece sacrifice, and they played bishop d4 instead, which allows white to deal with their knight hanging. So they can either take or they can retreat, both of which are fine for white. So they took on c6, and then take on c3 was played, and this is obviously a humongous blunder, because knight takes d8 is a legal move, which was played. And from here on out, it's basically all white all the time, because white's up a queen. Doesn't require a lot of explanation. Bishop g5 pinning. Takes, queen h5. White doesn't even bother with castling, because they're so far ahead in development they can just issue this attack with their queen and bishop. Seems pretty good. Alright, here. Now, actually, this would be a fun part to pause and see if you can improve on the game, because in the game, white played bishop takes f7, which is, of course, completely winning, and it leads to checkmate in several moves. There's actually an improvement on this. If you want to try to find it, you can pause here. Okay, so the improvement is to first insert the in-between check, queen g6. And using this pin, the queen creeps closer. It prevents the king from running this way because of checkmate in 1. And it actually forces the king into the corner, which will give the same position we get in the game, say after bishop take f7. Now it's pretty hard to stop queen takes h6. And if the rook ever moves off the back rank, there's also queen g8, there's also queen takes f6. There's basically all these different dangerous checks that black has to deal with, and there's no way to cover everything. So yeah, it's a forced mate. So going back, in the game, bishop takes f7 was played. King voluntarily went into the corner. It probably should have gone the other way and tried to run towards the center, but again, it's not going to matter too much because white's still completely winning. But after king h8, it is white to play and find the fastest route to victory. So please take a look at it. If you want to make a comment on the official post, check out the link in the YouTube description. Other than that, hope you guys are all having a great International Chess Day, and I'll see everybody tomorrow for another puzzle challenge video.